For our project this year, we had the opportunity to work with two valuable clients within the military community. I worked with Ms. Moorfield for Herd and Creekside.
My group had the opportunity to work with Ms. Brush and Creekside Coffee.
I would now like to introduce you to my team for Heart of the Herd. Karina Medvick, Amelia Harden, Gregory Sutton, Lillian Rivera, Tammy Delaire, and Lauren Orso. We began by interviewing our client, Ms. Moorfield, for Heart of the Herd. And after our interview, we were able to gather her goals for this collaboration. That included getting donations, improved marketing, boosting staff morale, creating a holiday countdown, and keeping staff aware of Heart of the Herd. This is the holiday countdown vision board that we used in order to help my team and I keep track of our branding throughout this process. This is the holiday countdown film.
For day one, I used the holiday color scheme of green and red to help my design feel festive. I wanted my design to be easy to read without being too cluttered. Since the day one and day two activities were the same, we decided to have the designs coordinated. I finished my design by making a tile for our holiday countdown calendar.
For day two, I started my flyer with a bright to dark red gradient background, adding transparent question marks and holly berries in the corner for the trivia and holiday themes. The body text, title, event description, dress code, and a catchy saying were then added. For my tile, I used the same gradient, added my day, and incorporated a gingerbread man saying the word trivia to maintain the theme. This completed my design for day two.
For day three, I wanted my design to feel festive and traditional. So I started by adding a soft pink background in order to keep everything light and playful. Then I created my main graphic, 2 candy canes and a decorative bow. I used simple shapes with the pen tool, added bold outlines, and kept the colors flat to keep it in the same matchy cartoon style. For my 2 candy canes and bow, I used a color palette from my team's vision board, and for the title and body text, I used fonts from our team's vision board as well. I also created a matching tile for the day using the same background color, same fonts, and my candy cane graphic as the main visual. That way, day 3 fit perfectly with the holiday countdown calendar.
For day 4, I had to write the details for a sponsored staff elf hunt and the Merry Mustard Express. Before I began designing, I knew I wanted an elf either peeking from somewhere or holding a magnifying glass. I also wanted some holiday presents since there were small gifts being brought to all the staff that day. From here, I went into Adobe InDesign and began organizing all the text. I decided to put all the information in boxes with the elf peeking over the box. Here you can see my final product. I went with festive colors and simplistic vibe. For day 5, I also had the same sponsored staff elf hunt as day 4. Due to this, I kept the overall layout very similar. The things that I did change were color placement, graphics to match the day's events of festive fill-ins and colorings, and text detailing the day's events and dress code.
For day 6, I began work in Adobe Illustrator. I started by laying down red and green alternating squares. Then I gathered the text provided to us and placed it in the general area I wanted it. Since this one was significantly more text heavy than the other day I worked on, I made sure that all the most important information stood out while everything else was still legible. Finally, for the corresponding tile, I did the same thing with the background and I added the number.
For day 7, I wanted my design to be something people could glance at and still have an idea of what the activity for that day was. To do this, I started by adding graphics of cookies and soda cans. I also put the details of when and where my activity would be at the top of my flyer in larger text. I added a holiday tree into the background to continue the festive theme, and I finished my design by making a tile. However, due to snow days, certain days on the calendar had to be moved around, and my design was not the final design used for day 7.
For day 8, I wanted my design to be fun, cute, and festive. For the candy, cookie, and gingerbread man, I used the color palette for my team's vision board, and I used the same fonts for the title and body texts. I also made a matching tile for this day using the same background color, same fonts, and my graphics scattered in the corners. That way, day 8 fit with the holiday countdown calendar.
For days 9 and 10, I knew I wanted these to be the most unique and visually appealing while still meeting the client's desires. Specifically for day 9, I knew I wanted it to be icy and snowy since the day's event was teacher appreciation with the slogan, "We appreciate you so much," and a dress code of winter whiteout. As for day 10, it was the holiday pop-in where staff would get to watch a movie. This is why I added the camera playing out the dates so attention would be drawn there first.
For day 11, the theme was candy canes. So I unified my flyer and tile with the same pink background, red border, and red and white text. I used a graphic of a candy cane on the flyer, and for the tile, I placed red and white stripes over the background to maintain the candy cane imagery without feeling too derivative of the flyer.
I started work in Adobe Illustrator again. I kept the original white background and then made a smaller square using the blue from our color palette. I added a slight gradient to add depth. Compared to the other day I worked on, this one was obviously a lot less text heavy. So I had more time to work on other things. I traced a flower to fit the Hawaii theme and a snowman per request. Then for the tile, I experimented with a variety of different things until I ended up with the final product.
For day 12, I designed 3 secret messages in the North Pole cards to be passed among staff throughout the day, the final holder winning a prize. I created the backside first, featuring my top secret title decorated with my existing Holly Berry element. I took inspiration from actual postcards and designed custom postage stamps to be placed in the corners. Finally, text was added, which includes the game instructions, a cute holiday saying, and Santa's address beside the postage stamp.
Although I didn't do the designing in terms of our deliverables, I did manage to create a well-organized system for my team, and I had to keep track of what was done, what needed to be done, and what was on its way to being done. I also took the liberty of designing our countdown calendar and linking it so you would be able to see the flyers when you clicked each tile. I also worked on the vision board for core branding. This is the vision board for our core branding for Heart of the Herd. We have elements designed by our team, as well as fonts and a class to the Middle Creek High School colors.
When we first started working on this project, we were advised as a class to individually sketch out our ideas for a Heart of the Herd logo. Once our sketches were completed, we went into Adobe platforms and began designing. Once all of our designs were completed, we voted as a class which logos we felt were best. Our top 4 designs were created by me, Hannah, Hayden, and Jenny. Along with the voting process, we also received feedback from classmates, teachers, and our client. In the end, our client chose the final logo.
For my logo with Heart of the Herd, I immediately knew what I wanted to do. So I started by grabbing my shapes and putting them all together to give the logo an original idea and character. I then found the colors that the rest of the team was using and put them on my board so that way I knew what colors to use. I then started to add my text but ran into the problem that there was not an appropriate place to put it. So I workshopped a banner to put behind my original design to bring everything together. With that, this is my final design.
For my logo, I began by sketching out the multiple ideas I had. I then chose the one you can see on the bottom of the screen. I felt that it was most visually appealing and best fit for the client. I then went into Adobe Illustrator and began turning this into a creative logo. At first, I was struggling to make the horse appear as though it is joined with the heart and the overall structure of the line art. This is when I decided to take a new approach and where I saw my design come to life. For my final products, I made a colored logo and a black one so that there was more variety to choose from. During the voting process, I received feedback on what revisions could be made. So then I made some tweaks to my logo, and here you can see my final refined design.
When first starting my logo, I knew I wanted my design to be simple and easy to look at. After talking it over with some of my teachers and classmates, I determined that having hearts on my logo would be best to stay on brand with the heart of the herd. I knew I wanted the hearts to be interlinking to show togetherness and teamwork, so I did that and added some final touches, and this was my final result for my first logo. After submitting my logo in the class voting, I got voted top 4, but was not voted to be used as the main logo. But after submitting all our designs to Ms. Moorfield, she decided that she liked my design and wanted to use it as a supporter logo. A supporter logo would be used to show which teachers support Heart of the Herd and which teachers donate frequently. She liked my design but wanted to change a few things like the lines on the heart, which I changed to look painted on and more flowy to give a more positive. I also changed the middle brief logo to the new updated Heart of the Herd logo and changed the text to say supporter to make it more easily distinguishable.
For my logo, I wanted it to be simple and easy to understand, so I started brainstorming things that represented a horse, and I came up with a horseshoe and a horse footprint. After discussing with the client and going back and forth, we decided a horseshoe would be the best option. I also wanted to include a heart because it was part of the branding. So once I finished tracing the heart and the horseshoe, I added Middle Creek colors and tweaked the spacing to complete my design.
Korea and I designed event and donation flyers. She and I both used Middle Creek colors. I designed simple elements to represent the mane of a horse and placed them on the edges of my flyer. Then I added filler text, a place for an image to go, and finally, Heart of the Herd and support your herd below that.
I designed a set of 4 stickers for our client. My stickers each use one main color and a depiction of a hoof print in the center. These are intended to be placed on teachers' mailboxes to indicate donors to Heart of the Herd. I made so few of these with such simple designs, not only because the surface area they could put on is limited, but also because I wanted to ensure that when people saw them, they could easily infer that they were all coming from the same source.
I created 2 promotional stickers to show that supporters are part of the organization and have donated. These designs came from when I was originally sketching out logo ideas. However, instead of turning these sketches into logos as intended, I realized they would be better suited as stickers. I then went into Adobe Illustrator and began turning these into usable graphics and made sure to keep listing colors.
I took on the task of creating 2 social media posts. My first design is a 1x1 graphic meant to call attention to Heart of the Herd as a whole, and my vertical graphic is meant to request donations. I took inspiration from many other promotional posts I'd seen online and layered elements of the background to add depth. In both posts, I added images of horses traveling together to bring to mind the name of the organization and emphasize the idea.
For my social media post, I made a question and answers about Heart of the Herd. To start, I made a red box where I was going to put the Q&A. Then I put down my text. I wanted to separate the questions from the answers, so I made it bold and I underlined it. Then to put emphasis on what the post was about, I put that under the red box.
To convey the values of Herd and Herd, I made templates that allow for easy updates of information and photos. I developed templates that I use seasonal colors and holiday colors. I also made a non-seasonal version using Mustang colors for additional flexibility. I wanted to create a simple all-purpose banner for our client. I used the same horse's main element and then added Heart of the Herd and Support Your Herd in the middle as the main focal point. This completed my banner.
For my 2 pin designs, I wanted them to be geometric, meaningful, and modern. So I started by adding 2 circular shapes and 2 background colors of soft blue and soft pink. I used simple shapes using the pen tool, adding bold black outlines, and kept the color flat to ensure a striking and consistent matching theme. To finish up, I added dots scattered across the pins, as well as the words of the herd using fonts for my team's vision board. The 2 matching pins use the same graphic style and same layout, with the only change being in the color palette. That way, these 2 match as a pair. I would now like to introduce you to our Creekside Coffee classmates, and they are going to show you their designs.
Hello, my name is Ben Bartley. This is Vinny Mistician and Sam Burns. I'm the project manager for the Creekside Coffee branding project. Our team created designs and advertising to help the brand within the school. We also created instructional and safety material to help baristas better understand their work.
To gain information of what our client wanted throughout this project, our class made a list of questions that we wanted to ask. We then later went to interview Ms. Brush and her students in their classroom. We found out a lot of their ideas, like their core values, color palette, and design preferences. We also found out Mrs. Brush's main goal, which was to show inclusiveness throughout the school and support unity. We later went back to the classroom and started on our project, and having this information early on was a great way for success.
Creekside Coffee's designs were inspired by Middle Creek High School and coffee beans. These combined warm, cozy cafe inspiration with Middle Creek High School spirit, with the color palette being red, black, and white representing Middle Creek, and various browns representing coffee. And for our font, we created something simple, readable, and visually appealing. And this all creates a welcoming, consistent look.
Hello, my name is Carter Hunt. This is Katie Marzik, Maddie Brandoff, Hannah Whitaker, and Sam Burns. And we were tasked with creating the logos for Creekside Coffee. We first started sketching all of our ideas and narrowed down our selection. We began in Adobe Illustrator. Once we were finished in Illustrator, we began peer review. The class gave feedback on all the designs, and with the feedback, we made the changes. Once everything was finalized, we began voting. The class voted for the best student design. And in the end, my design won.
I was runner-up for the logo. For my design, I used coffee beans and arranged them into a heart. Using a heart represents unity and highlights that Middle Creek is one big community. I also used multiple different sized coffee beans to represent that no matter our differences, everyone is still welcome. After revisions, I was given feedback that I should move the text into the heart so it didn't feel separate. This completed my design.
I designed a logo for Creekside Coffee. Going into my design, I knew I wanted to have a coffee cup as the main focal point, so I began by looking for overhead images of coffee cups online and began my design process. The heart in the middle is the coffee foam, but it also represents connection, unity, and the love the students and teachers have for this program. I struggled a bit with making the heart look connected at the bottom, but I was eventually able to solve this by resizing each half. I finished my design by adding text above and below the coffee cup, and then I colored everything in using my team's color palette. Overall, I like the way my design turned out.
For my logo I created for Creekside Coffee, I created a coffee mug with steam coming out of it and a Mustang logo in the middle. Next, I created a saucer underneath and added Creekside Coffee's name underneath it. My color palette being red and black, and I'm very happy with how my design turned out.
I created a logo for Creekside Coffee. I started off by looking online for inspiration and then went into InDesign. I decided to do these hands grabbing each other and each hand a different color to represent diversity, and grabbing each other represents unity. Since it was in a circle, I had the idea of making it to a coffee cup, so I added the classic latte design and then added the text Creekside Coffee. The stroke of the text is slightly darker than the fill to make it look like it was written into the foam. Overall, I was proud of my design and the way it turned out.
During my designing process, I wanted to include a Mustang drinking coffee, but throughout designing it, I decided to change it into a mug. I was inspired to use unity, so I decided to have art inside the coffee. I wanted to represent the Middle Creek Mustang, so I included a Mustang on the mug. And I was given feedback to change the mug to be red instead of white. I also included a black and white version, just in case the client were to prefer a cleaner look.
Within the Creekside Coffee brand, we had two delegated teams, promotional and instructional. Our promotional team created designs and advertising to help with publicity within the school. Our instructional team helped with instructional and safety materials to help the student baristas who are making the coffee. First up is our promotional team.
My name is Landon Dixon, and this is Hayden Clark, and we are members of the promotional team for Creekside Coffee. Other members include Sandra Nunes, Sam Burns, Macy Collins, Hannah Whitaker, Katie Monlick, and Maddie Brannon. We were tasked to make advertising and merchandise for Creekside Coffee. We were also tasked to make cup sleeves, flyers, social media posts, a sign for the cart, stickers, t-shirts, and it may be posted online and want to be printed out on the teacher board.
I was in charge of creating a slogan for Creekside Coffee. When we were looking at this, I decided I was going to look for inspiration within organizations similar to ours. And so, after that, I consulted with my peers and mentors. We collectively agreed on the slogan, delivering coffee and inclusion. This connects that they are a coffee delivery service for everyone to be a part of. This slogan is now placed on multiple promotional materials, such as business cards, flyers, and signs.
For my flyer, I began by creating a QR code so the ordering website was easily accessible. Then I added the purpose of the brand so the customers know the values and to encourage them to support our students' hard work. I also included the steps of the process in case some aren't familiar, and to finish it off, I added images of the students making coffee, along with Middle Creek colors.
For my flyer, I wanted to keep it simple. I added pictures of the students making the coffee, as well as adding their branding. I also wanted a direct way to get to their ordering site, so I added the QR code. That way teachers could scan it instead of having to type it in.
The flyer I created is designed to be eye-catching, yet simple. I centered it around falling coffee beans and a falling coffee cup to add more of a quick or rapid feeling. With the main text, I made it brown to complement the coffee theme, and I did the same with the Mustang, rather than going for the school colors. To keep visual balance, I added text at the bottom with bullets to add spacing. And to end my design off, I added "Made at Middle Creek" to remind people the reason behind Creekside Coffee.
I was tasked with creating menus to hang up in the teacher workroom. For my first menu, I started with adding images of the students making coffee to highlight their hard work and showcase the skills they learned. To finish it off, I added the products with its details and played around with the spacing and the borders so it didn't look as cluttered. I wanted to give our client another design, so I began working on the second menu. I found inspiration and knew I wanted this one to be more picture heavy. So I added images of the students to convey that it's a student-focused brand, just like my last design. To complete this menu, I added the products with the ingredients and the price, along with decorative borders, the slogan, and the final logo.
I made social media posts and online videos. For my social media posts, I wanted to showcase the students making the coffee and not just the final product. I wanted to keep it simple, so I just added the Creekside Coffee name as well as the pictures. For my online menus, I also wanted to keep it simple. I added what was in the product as well as a few modifications that can come with it. I added the logo and a Mustang.
I designed the cup sleeves for Creekside Coffee. I began my design by looking for inspiration online, and I found a majority of the designs had a logo in the middle, so I knew I wanted to include either our school logo or the logo for our design. In my first design, I decided to include our school's logo with the text underneath. In my second design, I decided to add more stuff, and I decided to add coffee beans raining down in the background, Carter's logo in the middle, and red hash circles on the top and bottom to act as borders. I struggled a bit with placing the coffee beans and making it look natural, but I was eventually able to overcome this challenge by resizing them and scaling them to the way I wanted them. I finished both of my designs by coloring everything in, and overall I liked how both my designs turned out, but if I had to choose one, I picked the second one because people are able to recognize that it's for Creekside Coffee easier than the first.
I was tasked with making stickers for Creekside Coffee. I knew that I wanted to do something cute and bubbly because our client referenced being drawn to that. I began by looking online for reference pictures and then went into Illustrator, where I began making an outline for each sticker, and my first sticker I did a horse with a coffee cup. Then I colored in the horse and moved on to my second design. For my second design, I did a glass of milk pouring into a cup of coffee and then coloring it in. For my last design, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I asked my teachers and peers around me for help, and we all decided on a to-go coffee cup. So I went for a reference picture and went back into InDesign. Then I made the outline and colored it in. Overall, I'm very proud of how my stickers turned out.
I also designed some stickers for Creekside Coffee. In one of my first designs, I decided to make a red coffee cup with the text in the middle, and the coffee cup was supposed to be surrounding the text in a hub. In another one of my designs, I decided to make a coffee cup character because I knew people would find that fun and it would be entertaining. I struggled a bit with creating the white borders and the drop shadows, but I was eventually able to solve this problem with the help of Ms. Jones. Overall, I kept all of my designs very simple, and Maddie and I both feel like Ms. Fresh will like all these options that we've included.
Throughout the semester, we have been challenged to learn a lot of different skills on multiple different softwares. One of those was InDesign. Earlier in the year, we were given the assignment to create mock business card designs. So when I heard that we needed certain promotional materials, I immediately got to work. I started by finding the colors that I wanted to use, knowing that I wanted to use colors that are similar to my original logo. But after having the logo decided on by the rest of the class for a final design, those colors changed. I then started to add my elements that would give me the end goal of a simple design. I then consulted with my mentors and peers And after moving things around, this is my final design.
For my business card, I wanted to include the menu as something that would make it stand out, as most business cards don't include menus. I started off by adding the logo in the middle and splitting it into sections, with the left side being contact information and ordering, while the right side would include the menu. Once I had a blank layout fully planned out, I added a black background or a brown background with coffee beans. And to keep consistency with the brand, I added any extra branding information to end off my design.
For the punch card, I took inspiration from punch cards that you might find at an ice cream shop, where they punch it for you every time you go. However, this seemed too simple to me. So instead of the area that you would punch out, I decided to add coffee cups. I made sure that there were 10 coffee cups, and on the 10th one, I added the word free, as well as at the top saying, buy 9, get the 10th free. I also made 2 t-shirt designs. For the first design, I really liked the look of Hannah's logo, so I asked her if it would be okay to use on the t-shirt. Miss Brush had a quote that really resonated with our team. We are all one, as one school. We all blend together, and we all work together. I decided that I wanted to put this quote on the back of the shirt, and on the front of the shirt, I put Hannah's logo. For my second design, I wanted a shirt that the baristas could wear when delivering the coffee. This one, I had the same design inspiration, to keep things clean and simple. So I decided to put the Creekside Coffee logo on the front of it, as well as adding the title barista to that.
For the delivery card sign, I wanted to make a simple, easy to read logo. I first started off by making the background red, and I added the Meadow Creek logo on it with the text Creekside Coffee on top of it. I then lowered the opacity of the Meadow Creek logo to make the text more readable. After that, I felt like my design was complete. And I would now like to introduce the instructional team, Creekside Coffee.
Hello, my name is Akash Ramakrishnan, and this is Rowan Hannon. Me and my teammates, who also included Asher Cesar, Vinny Mistician, and Carter Hunt, were a part of the Creekside Coffee instructional team. We were also given help from our project manager, Finn Barley, throughout the process of creating our designs. And now Rowan will talk about our design components.
For the instructional side of Creekside Coffee, using the same artboard as the promotional team, we made safety flyers, instructional slides, posters, and a video. We went to the Creekside classroom to take pictures and record video, using our pictures for our various posters and flyers, and the video to demonstrate safety and how to work the machine for the rest of the kids.
While Rowan was taking video, my job on photo was to capture still shots of the coffee making process. This consists of objects that may be hot to ensure the students won't touch them, and pictures of buttons they know what to press. Along with this, it was stuff as simple as pictures of them tamping the coffee beans or frothing the milk. I was also in charge of taking super close-up and detailed pictures of the coffee machine that would be used on the safety and instruction slides.
While Asher was taking the photos, I was working behind the scenes with equipment such as cameras and tripods. I was also directing photo and video to make sure the best shots possible were being gotten. I also directed the student baristas to make sure they were in the right place and when to pause at the correct time so we could get the best photos and pictures possible.
I was in charge of the instructional slides for Creekside Coffee. I knew I wanted the slides to be simple and easy for the students to understand. I wanted the slides to be very simple so it wouldn't be a challenge for the students to work with. I wanted the pictures to be the focal point of the slides that would be the easiest to understand, and having a visual example was very helpful when making the coffee. I was also in charge of the cautionary side of the slides. I wanted to put a caution symbol right next to the pictures because there are a lot of dangers when brewing the coffee, like burning yourself or cutting yourself. Having these active safety reminders can help prevent many injuries in the future and be a very helpful tool.
To start my instructional posters, I began in Illustrator using the Middle Creek font, using the Middle Creek colors to create a background. Then, using the interview that we did with Creekside Coffee, I added the steps to using the coffee machine and bolded the important parts of the instruction. After editing the photos that we took, I added those to the blank spots on my poster, finalizing my design.
I was given the task of creating a one-page instructional poster on how to make the coffee. I started by getting all of my steps onto my poster and adding my titles at the top and the bottom. I then added the pictures next to the steps that they aligned with and added caution signs next to the steps that could potentially be dangerous. Now I'll pass it over to Carter to talk about his designs.
I created 4 safety posters. I wanted to keep it simple and readable for the students. I wanted them to comprehend what the poster is saying, so I decided to say careful instead of caution. I want to emphasize what could be dangerous with a red bold text it catches the eye, telling them what not to do. And on each poster there's an illustration with the dangers and what not to do.
We needed footage to create our instructional video, so we found the time to head down to the Creekside classroom. Carrying cameras and tripods, we got inside, set up, and prepared to record. We captured close-ups of the coffee machine and footage demonstrating how it works. Afterwards, we had to back upstairs to fix up our videos for the final product.
My job on video was strictly on the computer. I was tasked with taking the footage and adding it in Premiere Pro to create the final instructional video. Doing this, I was cropping and slicing the video and to take out any unneeded breaks or mistakes that the students may have made. Now we're going to show you a short snippet of the video.
I'd now like to bring Finn and Charlotte back up to finish up our presentation.
Throughout the project, we were trusted with many things and were given many opportunities to learn valuable life lessons. We would all like to thank Ms. Brush and Mrs. Moorfield for these awesome opportunities, and working with them was wonderful.
We would also like to thank the Middle Creek administrative team, as well as Ms. Jones, Ms. Cheska, and Ms. Murray for making us happy. We would also like to thank our audience for being here today.
Thank you. We would now like to open the floor for questions. Would anyone like to ask any questions?
Thank you guys so much for all the work that you did. You did a great job. And overall, we were so excited about all the creativity in the project. It was extremely hard to choose a logo. And after a lot of discussion with House and I still didn't choose one. So we picked 3 things for you all to focus on. So thank you so much. And from our conversation, it was clear that your designs were trying to reflect what we wanted to go for with Heart of the Herd. And the audience, the tone, and the purpose, it really came through in your design. So we appreciate that. And the communication was great. I feel like you did great with asking questions and receiving feedback and making changes to the design, so thank you for that. My question is, as a team though, because I believe that you guys had a different logo that you liked as opposed to what we finally chose. So what was your favorite logo as a class that you voted on, and then why? What was the reason that you guys liked that logo best?
In our class, the logo that was voted on the most was my logo.
Why did you guys make that design? Or those design elements, why was that the favorite?
We voted on a social forum, so we didn't really like talk as a class. So we just like took the poll and so.
My favorite logo was Vinny's because I liked how it was really simple, but it still showed what part of the herd was trying to accomplish. It was the one with the two hearts that you guys turned into this important logo.
Yeah.
Great job, everybody. Quick question on the menu pricing. I noticed you have a very specific price point on your coffee at $4.26, if I recall correctly. A, why did you pick that number? B, you also had business cards that had the price point on them. Do you feel like, or did you discuss the long-term price changes over time? So you have to recreate your cards as time goes on. Was that a discussion point at all? And lastly, the psychology of showing prices on the coffee versus just showing the coffee itself. Did you all discuss that at all?
I made the menus and I didn't pick the prices. They had a Google spreadsheet that was their ordering form, and that's just what they had on the form. And I figured that they didn't need to change the price, so that's just what I went with.
For the business cards, fortunately, the software that we use for creating everything is very easy and user-friendly. So if there are any design changes that need to be made down the road, you can go in and everything's saved and make the changes as needed.
If I come back to the coffee shop next year with the business card at $4.26 and the price is $5, would the business owner give me the coffee for $4.26?
You'd have to talk to them.
So this is your second, right, project as a group. What would you say you've learned working together as a group? In the group, you know, group work can be hard and can be great. So what would you say is something you learned, and what would you say that you appreciate about the group work?
I was the team manager for Herd and Herd, and I really did learn how to put my personal beliefs towards some designs aside and focus more on what our client would want, and I feel like that was very good in my growth as a leader, so I can focus more towards, you know, what our client wants.
I was the project manager for Creekside Coffee. Some things I took away from it was working around challenges. We had 2 snow days that made it a shorter deadline for us, and we had a lot of things that were still needed to be finished. And we also had to work around and learn how each other worked, and we had to grow with each other.
I have a question about the t-shirts that were designed. Were they purchased, or are they planning to be purchased? And when you sell them, who do you sell them to, and where do the profits go? Do they go to the school or back to the coffee companies? Creekside Coffee. Thank you.
I'm not really sure. I know the barista shirts, they're gonna try and give them to the people that work there, but the other shirts, I'm hoping that they can sell to people that buy the coffee. But the profits would probably go towards coffee supplies.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a.
It's working, go ahead.
I'm a junior, and I've had the pleasure of seeing both cohorts older and younger. A lot of people say that it gets better every year, but this time I felt it personally watching you guys, because you guys did a lot, like a lot. And I love the coffee stickers. They're awesome. I love the puns. I love how simple yet straightforward they are. But I know I saw a few names happen a bunch throughout the presentation, and what was it like working on a bunch of different things at once?
For me, I had to work on 7 different, I worked on 7 different designs for our Herd and Creekside, and for me it was very stressful because specifically for the holiday calendar, we had a shorter deadline, so I had to complete those quicker, and with the snow days and Thanksgiving break and extra teacher work days, we have even less time to work on it.
For me, I got to work on anything after I was done with my flyers, so I had enough time to do it and get good enough feedback too.
For me, I was waiting for something, so while I was waiting for those elements, I would go and start another design until I felt that it was complete, and then I would go back once I had the new elements and finish my designs.
I think there's minor frustration with it when your design relies on something someone else is working on, but they're also working on so many different things, so you can't complete your own. It kind of creates this struggle where you don't know when you'll complete your own project or the other person will complete theirs. So you just feel really stuck. That happens to me a lot.
For me, I started on the instructional team for Creekside Coffee, and eventually, because so many roles were taken within that job or that group, I ended up getting moved over to the promotional and kind of got my jobs on the go. So the designs that I made were more last minute than some of the others.
Hi. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm also a junior in the academy. Just want to say y'all did really good, but I know you'll hear that a lot as the years go on. My question was, how did y'all split up the projects? Who was on what teams, and how did you pick the project managers? Did y'all not hear me?
So at the beginning, when we first figured out this project, we had to fill out a Google form. We had to turn it in, and then our teachers they checked it. We got to pick which one we wanted to do, and then they read it and kind of divided us off into which groups we wanted to be. And then the people that wanted to be project managers, they would email our teachers, and then our teachers decided the 2 best people to be the managers.
If you had more time to use video, what do you think, how do you think video should have been added to have the most effect in terms of social media, website? If you had more time working on video projects, what do you think
If we had a little bit more time with the camera, we could have also made video showcases of the different products, like our t-shirts and cards. We could have also gotten like more footage for the, more in-depth footage of the coffee machine and like the whole process.
I wanted to say that, or piggyback off what Jeremy made a comment about. You guys created a lot of assets, and you should be commended on the fact that you did so much work in a short period of time, and then you also had to create this presentation, memorize it, and get ready for the actual presentation day. On top of all of the setbacks of weather that you ran into. So I just wanted to let you know, as an advisor in the Academy, I understand the massive amount of work that goes into producing these types of presentations, and you should be very proud of yourselves for producing so much content, delivering it in a very professional manner, and doing such a phenomenal job. And I also want to say the same thing that Jeremy said about those stickers. Beautiful work, absolutely beautiful work. And I think Mr. Petty also wants to make a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on a lot of what Mr. Maldonado said too, because we know what it's like, the hard work that you guys put in behind the scenes that showcases on the day you guys actually step up to the stage. And so you guys did a great job with all of your graphics and all the deliverables, like you said, because there was flyers and posters and logos and stickers and social media and videos. There's a lot of different things. And so be proud of what you've done. Everything looked really, really good. You guys did a great job of presenting. The one question I have goes back to organization, kind of touched on a little bit, because you guys were doing so many things and so many different jobs. As you progress through the Academy, your individual organization and your organization with your teams of communication is so big. So what did you guys learn about your organization with each other through this process?
I learned that you really have to rely on each other during this, because at some points you don't really know what anyone else is doing, but you have to put trust in them that in the end they're going to show up and they're going to pull through.
With so many deliverables to deliver to our clients, I feel like we had to learn a lot of organization skills and how to make folders and keep track of everything, and that was definitely difficult, but I feel like in the end, we all pulled through and we were able to keep everything organized in a way that we could all access everything. And we also learned a lot of great communication skills to communicate with everybody about what we were designing.
If there are no more questions, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Erin Truscott, I'm an English 2 teacher for the ADMA cohort, and on behalf of myself and Ms. Jones, who unfortunately had to leave on the fly, I just want to say how proud we are of you. You all worked very hard. You have endured through some challenges that we couldn't have foreseen or planned for, and overall, your products are amazing, your work has been amazing, and it's been a really wonderful process. I'm proud of you. Well done.